Right now, at this exact moment, there are at least 6 different calendars telling you it's a different year. The Gregorian calendar, the one on your phone, says one thing. The Hebrew calendar says it's a completely different year, somewhere in the 5,700. The Islamic calendar says it's somewhere in the 1400s. The Persian calendar says something else entirely. The Ethiopian calendar is 7 or 8 years behind the Gregorian. Right now, in Ethiopia, it is not the same year as it is everywhere else. It is not even close. And the Hindu calendar, depending on which regional system you use, gives you yet another answer. Multiple answers, actually, because there is no single Hindu calendar. There are dozens, and they disagree with each other. We act like time is objective, like the year is just a fact, a number that everyone on Earth shares, the way everyone shares the same gravity. But the year is not a fact. The year is a decision. And the history of that decision, who made it, why they made it, what they were trying to control, what they got wrong, and what they had to cover up when they got it wrong, is one of the most bizarre, most political, most genuinely surprising stories in all of human history. Because here's the thing nobody tells you about the calendar. The calendar was never primarily about keeping track of time. It was about power. Whoever controlled the calendar controlled when the harvest happened, when the taxes were due, when the holy days fell, when the army marched, when the king was crowned. The calendar was not a tool for measuring reality. It was a tool for governing people. And the reason the calendar has been revised, reformed, manipulated, fought over, and redesigned more than almost any other human institution, the reason Julius Caesar had to completely rebuild the Roman calendar, the reason the Catholic Church dropped 10 days from October in 1582 and people rioted in the streets, the reason the French Revolution invented an entirely new calendar and then abandoned it 12 years later, is that time is not actually the clean, manageable 12-month, 365-day thing that any of us want it to be. The Earth does not orbit the Sun in a round number of days. The Moon does not complete its cycle in a number that divides neatly into a year. Every calendar in history is a workaround for an astronomical problem that has no clean solution. And the workarounds are fascinating. The problem that started everything. The universe does not care about administrative convenience. This is the fundamental problem of the calendar, and it has never been solved, only managed. Here are the 3 natural cycles that every calendar must somehow reconcile. The day, 1 rotation of the Earth on its axis, approximately 24 hours. This one is clean. It divides into itself with no remainder. The lunar month, 1 orbit of the Moon around the Earth, approximately 29.5 days, not 29, not 30, 29.53059 days, to be more precise. Already the decimal places are multiplying. The solar year, 1 orbit of the Earth around the Sun, approximately 365.25 days, not 365, not 366, 365.24218 days. Currently, though this number changes slightly over very long timescales because the Earth's orbit is not perfectly stable. Now, try to build a calendar that uses all 3. You immediately hit the problem that has destroyed every calendar ever made. 12 lunar months add up to approximately 354 days. The solar year is approximately 365 days. The difference is 11 days. Every year, the lunar calendar falls 11 days behind the solar year. After 3 years, it has fallen back a full month. After 17 years, a lunar calendar date that was in summer is now in winter. After 33 years, the lunar calendar has completed a full loop and is back where it started, but the seasons have stayed where they are. This matters enormously if you are a farmer. Your planting schedule depends on the seasons, on when it is warm enough to plant, on when the rains come. If your calendar drifts away from the seasons, your agricultural timing goes wrong, your harvest fails, your people starve. It also matters if you are a priest or a king whose authority depends on performing certain rituals at certain cosmologically correct times. If the ritual of the spring equinox gets celebrated in winter because your calendar has drifted, the cosmic authority of that ritual is compromised. Every civilization that developed agriculture and religious practice eventually had to confront this problem. And their solutions tell you, very precisely, what each civilization considered most important. Babylon, the calendar as tax system. The Babylonians confronted the lunar-solar problem earlier and more systematically than any other ancient civilization, and their solution was elegant, practical, and almost entirely motivated by money. The Babylonian calendar was lunar. Each month began with the first visible crescent of the new moon, a moment that required actual visual observation, not calculation. Priests on rooftops, scanning the western horizon at sunset, watching for the thin crescent that would officially begin the new month. If clouds obscured the sky on the relevant night, the month was delayed. You could not decree the new moon. You had to see it. This created administrative chaos that the Babylonian Empire, one of the most bureaucratically sophisticated states in the ancient world, could not tolerate indefinitely. Tax collection, debt repayment, military service, temple obligations, all of these operated on the calendar. If the calendar was uncertain from month to month, the entire administrative apparatus of the empire was uncertain. The solution they developed over centuries of careful astronomical observation was intercalation, the strategic insertion of an extra month into the calendar year to keep the lunar calendar aligned with the solar seasons. By the 5th century BCE, Babylonian astronomers had worked out that 235 lunar months equals almost exactly 19 solar years. This is the Metonic cycle, named after the Greek astronomer Meton, who discovered it in 432 BCE, despite the Babylonians having used it for at least a century before him. The Metonic cycle meant that if you inserted 7 extra months into every 19-year period, the lunar calendar and the solar year would stay synchronized to within 2 hours over the full cycle. 7 extra months, 19 years. The same elegant mathematical structure the Babylonians used for the zodiac: find the smallest number that works, use it as a repeating unit, build the administrative system on the cycle. But here is the detail that gets overlooked. The Babylonian king personally decided when the extra month was inserted. This was not an automatic calculation. The astronomers could predict when an extra month was needed, but the declaration that the extra month would be inserted, that official act, required royal decree, which meant that if the king needed to delay a debt repayment, he could insert an extra month. If he needed to advance a military campaign's official start date, he could skip an adjustment. The calendar was a tool of royal financial management as much as it was a tool of timekeeping. The Babylonian calendar was the most accurate lunisolar system in the ancient world, and it was run by the treasury. Egypt, when the star mattered more than the moon. Egypt did something that no other ancient civilization did. It largely abandoned the moon. The Egyptian civil calendar was solar 365 days, 12 months of 30 days each, plus 5 extra days at the end of the year, called the epagomenal days, the days upon the year. These 5 extra days were mythologically loaded. They were the birthdays of the major gods: Osiris, Horus the Elder, Set, Isis, and Nephthys. Days outside the regular year, belonging to the divine rather than the administrative. This 365-day calendar was the most administratively convenient calendar in the ancient world. Every month had exactly 30 days. Every quarter had exactly 90 days. Tax calculation, ration distribution, labor scheduling, all of it was clean arithmetic with no awkward remainders. But it had one fatal flaw. 365 days is not a solar year. The solar year is 365.25 days. The quarter-day difference means that the Egyptian civil calendar drifted one full day behind the solar year every 4 years. After 40 years, it was 10 days off. After 120 years, a full month. After 1,460 years a period, the Egyptians called the Sothic cycle, the calendar had drifted all the way around and was back in alignment with the stars. The Egyptians knew this. They were sophisticated enough astronomers to calculate the drift. And for the most part, for most of the pharaonic period, they did nothing about it. Why? Because the drift itself was cosmologically useful. The 1,460-year Sothic cycle was meaningful. The return of the calendar to alignment with Sirius, the star of Isis, the star whose heliacal rising signaled the Nile flood after a full cycle of 1,460 years, was a cosmic event, a moment of divine reset. Pharaohs who ruled during such a moment had their reigns invested with special significance. The calendar's imperfection was incorporated into the theology as a feature. This is the move that distinguishes Egypt from almost every other calendar tradition. Instead of fixing the drift, they named it, gave it a mythological meaning, and made the imperfection part of the cosmic order. The practical consequence was that Egyptian agriculture ran not on the civil calendar, but on the actual astronomical signal of Sirius's heliacal rising. The star told you when the flood was coming, regardless of what the administrative calendar said. 2 calendars, one for the government, one for the farmers, both officially recognized, neither attempting to be the other. The Egyptians solved the calendar problem by deciding it was 2 different problems. Rome, the most corrupt calendar in history. This is where the story gets genuinely insane. The Roman calendar before Julius Caesar was a disaster, not a minor administrative inconvenience, a full, catastrophic, deliberate disaster. The original Roman calendar attributed to Romulus, legendary, probably mythical, but the tradition persists, had 10 months, March through December, 304 days. Then, approximately 60 days of unnamed winter, which didn't belong to any month, because nothing important happened in winter, and therefore winter didn't require official time. Yes, the original Roman calendar just didn't count winter. Then came Numa Pompilius, the second king of Rome, who allegedly added January and February to bring the total to 355 days, a lunar-based count. The Romans called their months by lunar reference: calendae, the calends, the first day; none, the nones, the 5th or 7th; idus, the ides, the 13th or 15th. Even the word calendar comes from the Roman calendae. But 355 days is still 11 days short of the solar year. So Rome also used intercalation, an extra month, Mercedonius, inserted between February 23rd and February 24th, approximately every 2 years. And here is where Roman politics ate the calendar alive. The decision of when to insert Mercedonius was the responsibility of the pontiffs, the college of priests, who managed Roman religious life. And the pontiffs discovered that this responsibility gave them extraordinary power. Want a political ally's term as consul to last longer? Don't insert the intercalary month. His year gets longer. Want an enemy's term to end faster? Insert Mercedonius early. His year shrinks. Want to delay the repayment of a debt until your ally is in power? Manipulate the calendar. By the time Julius Caesar became dictator in 46 BCE, the Roman calendar was approximately 3 months out of alignment with the solar year because pontiffs had been manipulating intercalation for political purposes for decades. It was winter, but the calendar said it was autumn. It was harvest time, but the official date was midsummer. Roman senators genuinely did not know what time of year it was. The Julian Reform. Caesar called in the Egyptian astronomer Sosigenes of Alexandria, bringing Egyptian calendar knowledge into direct contact with Roman administrative need, and together they designed a new system. The Julian calendar, 365 days with one extra day inserted every 4 years, a leap year. The quarter-day annual drift accumulated into a full day every 4 years, and that day was added to February. To fix the existing misalignment, Caesar declared that 46 BCE would have 445 days, 15 extra months, inserted all at once to bring the calendar back into alignment with the seasons. The Romans called it Annus Confusionis, the year of confusion. But it worked. After 46 BCE, the Julian calendar ran accurately enough that the difference between the Julian year and the actual solar year was only 11 minutes annually. 11 minutes. That sounds negligible, and for Caesar's lifetime, and for centuries afterward, it was. But 11 minutes per year, over centuries, accumulates. By the 16th century CE, roughly 1,600 years after Caesar, the 11-minute annual error had accumulated to 10 full days. The calendar was wrong by 10 days. And the Catholic Church, whose entire liturgical calendar depended on the date of Easter, which was calculated based on the spring equinox, had a serious problem: the Gregorian Reform. In October 1582, Pope Gregory XIII issued a papal bull, Inter Gravissimus, declaring that 10 days would be removed from the calendar. Thursday, the 4th of October 1582 was followed immediately by Friday, October 15th. 10 days simply did not exist. Across Catholic Europe, people went to sleep on October 4th and woke up on October 15th. Riots followed in several cities, not because of religious objection, but because landlords were demanding a full month's rent for a month that now had only 20 days. Workers wanted wages for 10 days of work that the calendar said had never happened. The financial implications of deleting 10 days from the calendar were enormous, and nobody had fully thought them through. The Gregorian calendar also changed the leap year rule. Years divisible by 100 would not be leap years unless they were also divisible by 400. This correction, so precise it requires application only once every 400 years, reduces the annual drift from 11 minutes to 26 seconds. 26 seconds per year. The Gregorian calendar will not be a full day off from the actual solar year until approximately the year 4909. Caesar spent 445 days fixing Rome's political corruption of the calendar. Gregory spent 10 days fixing Caesar's astronomical imprecision. Both of them solved the problem they inherited. Neither of them had a problem-free solution. They just had a problem small enough to ignore for a long time. Islam, the calendar that chose the moon deliberately. The Islamic calendar made a choice that every other major civilization refused to make. It chose the lunar calendar, purely lunar, without intercalation. The Islamic year has 12 lunar months, 354 days. No extra month to compensate for the drift against the solar year. No correction mechanism, no apology. The result: the Islamic calendar drifts against the solar year by 11 days every year. Ramadan, the month of fasting, falls in summer in some years, in winter in others. Over a 3-year cycle, Ramadan passes through every season. A Muslim who lives a full life will fast in summer's heat and winter's short days in roughly equal measure. This was not an oversight. It was a decision, and the theological reasoning behind it is explicit and deliberate. The Quran, in Surah 9, verse 37, specifically prohibits al-nasi, the intercalation practice. The insertion of extra months to keep the lunar calendar aligned with the solar year is declared forbidden. Why? Because intercalation, in the pre-Islamic Arabian context, was being used for exactly the same reason the Romans used it: political manipulation. The tribes of Arabia could intercalate, add an extra sacred month to extend periods of peace or postpone obligations. The prohibition of intercalation was a prohibition of this kind of manipulation. But the theological justification goes deeper than anti-corruption. A calendar that drifts through the seasons treats all seasons equally. The fasting month, the pilgrimage season, the holy days, none of them permanently belong to a comfortable time of year. They rotate. They fall on the wealthy and the poor, in the heat and the cold, in abundance and in scarcity, with equal consistency. The lunar calendar's drift is, in Islamic theology, a feature of its justice. Time does not privilege you. The year does not organize itself around your convenience. You organize yourself around the year, whatever the year brings. The French Revolution's calendar, the most radical attempt to restart time. In October 1793, the French revolutionary government did something that had never been done in recorded history. They didn't reform the calendar. They abolished it. The Gregorian calendar was a Catholic instrument, its months named after Roman gods and emperors, its holy days marking Christian feasts, its entire structure intertwined with the Church's authority that the Revolution was dismantling. Every time a French citizen said January or Sunday, they were, in the revolutionaries' view, acknowledging a system of power they had supposedly overthrown. The French Republican calendar replaced it entirely. The year was restructured into 12 months of 30 days each, like the Egyptian civil calendar, clean and arithmetically convenient with 5 remaining days, called sans culotides, named after the revolutionary working class, falling at the end of the year as national holidays. The months were renamed for natural phenomena: Vendémiaire grape harvest, Brumaire fog, Frimaire frost, Nivose snow, Pluviose rain, Ventos wind, Germinal germination, Floreal flowering, Prairial meadow, Messidor harvest, Thermidor heat, Fructidor fruit. No gods, no emperors, just weather and agriculture. The week was abolished. In its place, a 10-day cycle called the Decade. The 7th day of rest became the 10th day Decadi, the day of rest. The 7-day week, with its Babylonian planetary heritage and its Judeo-Christian sacred structure, was replaced with a decimal unit. Every clock in France was officially supposed to be converted to decimal time: 10 hours in a day, 100 minutes in an hour, 100 seconds in a minute. They also reset the year to year 1, the year of the Republic's founding. The entire history before the Revolution was, officially, before time. It lasted 12 years. Napoleon abolished the Republican calendar in 1806 and restored the Gregorian, primarily because the French business community, which operated with partners across Europe who used the Gregorian calendar, found the constant conversion between calendar systems expensive and exhausting. The decimal clock survived even less time. Almost nobody used it. The 7-day week proved impossible to uproot. Babylonian astronomical tradition, transmitted through 3,000 years of continuous use, defeated the French Revolution in approximately 3 years. The French Republican calendar is the most radical calendar experiment in history and the most complete failure. Its legacy, the word Thermidor, which survives in French political vocabulary to describe a conservative reaction against revolutionary excess, and in culinary vocabulary as the name of a lobster dish that was first served in a Paris restaurant on the day the month of Thermidor began. The revolution failed to control time, but it gave the world a very good lobster recipe. The calendar's still fighting right now. The calendar wars are not history. They are happening now. Ethiopia. The Ethiopian Orthodox calendar is 7 or 8 years behind the Gregorian. Ethiopia officially celebrated the year 2000 inches 2007. Ethiopian Airlines, one of Africa's largest carriers, flying millions of international passengers, annually operates in 2 calendar systems simultaneously. Flight schedules use Gregorian dates. Internal religious and cultural life uses the Ethiopian calendar. The country rings in the new year on September 11th by the Gregorian calendar. Israel. The Hebrew calendar is the official calendar of the State of Israel for religious and civil purposes, including holidays, which close the government and schools. But Israel also uses the Gregorian calendar for international business. Every Israeli lives in two calendar systems, and the cognitive load of that dual existence is present in every holiday announcement, every business negotiation, every school schedule. Saudi Arabia. Until 2016, Saudi Arabia used the Islamic Hijri calendar as its official calendar for government business. Government workers were paid according to the lunar calendar's shorter year, meaning they received 12 months of salary in what the solar calendar counted as 11.6 months. When the government switched to the Gregorian calendar for payroll, it cut salaries by approximately 3.4%, the difference between the lunar and solar year. This was framed as a calendar reform. It was also a pay cut. The Orthodox calendar dispute. The Julian calendar, the one Caesar built, which the Gregorian calendar corrected, is still used by the Russian Orthodox Church, the Serbian Orthodox Church, and several other Orthodox communities for determining the dates of religious feasts. This means that Russian Orthodox Christmas falls on January 7th by the Gregorian calendar, 13 days after the December 25th that most of the world celebrates. The 13-day difference is the accumulated error of the Julian calendar since 1582, when the Gregorian reform was made. The Russian Orthodox Church has been wrong by 13 days, on purpose, for 4 centuries, because changing the calendar would imply that the Catholic Church's correction was authoritative, and that is theologically unacceptable. 13 days of calendar error maintained for 400 years to avoid acknowledging a doctrinal point about papal authority. That is how much power the calendar carries. Every calendar ever built has one thing in common. It's wrong. Not slightly wrong in obscure decimal places. Wrong in the sense that the natural cycles it is trying to track do not fit into the administrative structures human beings need them to fit into. The moon doesn't complete its orbit in a whole number of days. The Earth doesn't complete its orbit in a whole number of days. And the moon's orbit doesn't fit into the Earth's orbit in a whole number of months. The universe is irrational in the mathematical sense it doesn't divide cleanly. It leaves remainders. And every civilization that ever tried to build a calendar, Babylon, Egypt, Rome, the Islamic world, the French Revolution, every civilization we've discussed was ultimately trying to do the same impossible thing: impose a clean, administrable, whole number structure on a cosmos that refuses to provide one. They all failed at that specific task. But in failing, they built something else. They built a record of what they valued. The Babylonians built a calendar for their treasury and their king. The Egyptians built a calendar for their farmers and their dead. The Romans built a calendar for their politics and then fixed it with Egyptian science. The Islamic tradition built a calendar for its theology, a deliberate refusal to privilege any season over any other. The French Revolution tried to build a calendar for its ideology and discovered that 3,000 years of Babylonian astronomical tradition is stronger than any revolution. Every calendar is a portrait of a civilization. It shows you what that civilization needed to control, what it chose to measure, what it decided was worth counting, and what it decided could be ignored. And underneath all of them, underneath every reform, every correction, every deleted day, and every inserted month, the same astronomical reality persists. The Earth keeps moving. The moon keeps moving. Neither of them cares about the calendar. The calendar is ours. The universe belongs to something else.